Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. Breaking news. Former FBI Director Jim Comey indicted, lying before a Senate committee, obstructing that proceeding, that committee proceeding, in the same way by lying. Both are felonies, up to 5 years. This is about whether Comey lied when he said to a senator he did not authorize anyone in his office to leak about the Trump investigation when he was head of the FBI. I'm going to keep saying it. Ready? Because this is it. You're going to be hearing about this for a while. And here's how you keep it straight. When he was the head of the FBI, did he authorize the leak of information to the media? Okay? The last part is everything. When he was head of the FBI, did he leak? This is going to be a case of interpretation. Why? Comey said then and later and always that after he was dismissed and after Trump tweeted what he took as a threat, he asked a friend of his, and there are lots of names and all that, but that's not what matters right now. It is what he said versus what he did and when, okay? After he was dismissed, he says, after Trump tweeted, he asked a friend to leak some information into the media, okay? The Inspector General looked at this, okay, under the Trump administration, and they found that Comey broke some norms. How? By what he took home, by how he handled things, but that none of it was actionable, that there would be no charges. So what changed? I say what changed is Trump, that Trump wants to go after him. And you will hear that they have new documents that show Comey lied and leaked sooner. What are those documents? We do not know. They are not in this two-page indictment, nor do they need to be. Now, this is the DOJ bringing this, right? There's a prosecutor named Halligan who signed it. But this is Trump. This is revenge. This is lawfare. This is not justice, I argue to you. This is about satisfying just us, meaning one side. I think this is classic two wrongs. Some of the prosecutions of the president were wrong, were weak, and were brought out of political expedience more than prosecutorial discretion. I believe this is the same thing. I also think what Comey did to Hillary was way worse than what he did to Trump. And I know that that's not a legal analysis, but saying that there were more emails just weeks before the election is something the FBI would never do. Never what Comey did writing that letter. And then to say a couple weeks, oh, but there are not going to be any charges. So out of line, so disastrous, and he knew it. That was something the FBI never does. But that's a matter for another day. I'm just saying for your perspective. Now, I also say this because I know this timeline and the existing body of evidence very, very well, okay? Why? Because I got it wrong one night, and I realized that I had some things confused, so I really dove into the Inspector General report, and that is what you should do as well, okay? There is a timeline that you'll see on social media that may or may not have been put together by one of Trump's former lawyers. It is not accurate. Okay, it suggests in the timeline that leaks were coming out before Trump tweeted that had to be coming from Comey, so he must have lied when he said it. I don't think it's accurate. I don't think it's backed by anything. Okay, however, here's the best part. There is reason to believe that this comes down to the interpretation of what leaking versus sharing meant to Comey. Because remember, to lie to somebody, you got to have intent, right? You can be wrong, but not lying, okay? Why? Because you didn't take it the way that they meant it. How so? Well, in the Inspector General report, it says that Comey began sharing information that was FBI material, his lawyer, this professor friend, not mere musings, not just, hey, buddy, information about the investigation with people outside the office before he was dismissed. Did that get to the media? I don't know. Is that considered a leak that he was setting up? I don't know. But did it happen before Trump's tweet that he said triggered him to give it to his friend? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Does that pass muster? I don't know. I say it's iffy. But this is about payback as much as it is about proof. And again, relying on the dossier was the original sin. And that's not in these charges, but that is what is motivating these charges. This makes Comey the first former senior government official to be indicted for the investigation. And here's what the president says. All right, justice in America. One of the worst human beings the country's ever been exposed to, Jim Comey, former corrupt head of the FBI, today was indicted by grand jury on 2 felony counts. Remember, the grand jury, to find a true bill, which is what this is called, they did not have to be presented with the proof of these new emails that they say they have that changes the reckoning. They just needed to have a prosecutor suggest to them that they exist. Remember, this is the lowest bar in our process. All right? You know, the rest of what he says is not relevant. It's just he hates Comey. I want to look at this legally, but also politically, because that's what this is about, okay? Now, Mimi Rocah is a former prosecutor with the Southern District of New York. Former Trump attorney William Brennan also joins me right now. It's good to have you both. First, would either of you like to say that I am a disgrace to Fordham Law School and I have this all wrong?
No, I wouldn't say that, Chris,
No?
and thanks for having me. But because you have so much knowledge about it, you know, they say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. You have so much knowledge that you may be 10 steps ahead of us. Let's talk about, I'm only here to talk about law. Politics is way above my game, but there's
Yes,
3 ways.
just law.
There's 3 vehicles a prosecutor can employ to charge. They can charge by complaint and warrant, and then within 30 days, they must have its grand jury return an indictment. They can charge by information. It usually is indicative of a potential plea, or they can charge by grand jury indictment, which means up to 25 people, independent citizens, return an indictment. And in my world, and in the prosecutor's world, it's here on the show with us, there's been a saying for about 45 years that a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. Well, we just saw that's not true because a gentleman was allegedly using a ham sandwich to throw against ICE agents, and U.S. Attorney Pirro couldn't get a grand jury to indict. So even though this is the lowest bar, up to 25 independent citizens have decided that this case gets through the first hurdle, notwithstanding any ire President Trump may have or General Bondi, and I'm not saying they do. You had mentioned they do. So I don't know that this is lawfare because we have this firewall of a grand jury, and the grand jury returned this indictment. An indictment doesn't mean Mr. Comey's guilty. He's presumed innocent, but
no, it doesn't.
He's indicted.
Yeah. I got you. Listen, I totally get the process. You're not wrong, except about some of the motivations and the context and how high bar this is. Mimi, what is your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, we can't ignore the context in which this happened. You want to just start at the grand jury. How did we get to a grand jury? The career prosecutor and prosecutors, we know this from reporting, said we should not indict this case. Now, that can be because they didn't think there was probable cause for the grand jury. It can be because the higher standard that prosecutors are supposed to use is, can you prevail at trial? Maybe that was their standard. Maybe it was both. We don't know. But career prosecutors said, not doing this, and even resigned. A Trump-appointed, not some deep state prosecutor, but a Trump-appointed, soon-to-be confirmed prosecutor, right? Eric Siebert. And then Trump, after directing his attorney general to do this, and we also know from reporting that the attorney general and the deputy attorney general, who've gone along with everything Trump wanted to do, were also apparently not in favor of this and were defending Siebert. That has to be relevant. And then he installed a political loyalist who's a real estate lawyer. That's who went to the grand jury. Do I have faith in grand juries? Yes, I do. But I do believe that grand juries listen to prosecutors, and part of the check of a grand jury on us prosecutors is that we don't bring them something that using our discretion shouldn't be charged. Just because you can charge something doesn't mean you should. Just because you can get an indictment doesn't mean you should. And yes, we will have to see how this plays out, but I'm not going to let someone say that the whole slate is wiped clean by the grand jury when
I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all.
Order him to be indicted.
Right,
Meaning,
so
I
let's
didn't
talk
say
about
that at
what.
all. I hope it didn't come across that way. It's just that
Well,
if there is
it
some
came across
grand
that way.
conspiracy, the 25 grand jurors would have to be a part of it. And I don't think they
No,
were.
no,
I
no
don't
way.
think they're in.
No. They don't. Hold on, Mimi. No, Bill, they don't have to be part of it because, as everybody should know, the reason the ham sandwich thing came up is because the grand jury is a prosecutor's show. And I'm not here to damn the system, but they didn't even have to see these new emails. It's just probable cause that if these new emails exist and if they say what I tell you they say, do you think there might be a crime committed? So I get why they did what they did. The question is, will this pass muster? So, Bill, let's just focus on that one question. What do they have to show on the facts as you understand them to get a conviction on Comey?
All right, now we're jumping now, just so I make sure I answer the right question. We're not talking about what they have to show to get a grand jury to indict. They have to show, what do they have to show to get a conviction? Whole new bar. As you said earlier, grand jury is the lowest bar possible.
Yep.
The beyond a reasonable doubt bar, a trial is the highest bar. The Supreme Court has said, and nobody really knows exactly what reasonable doubt is. It's like when Potter Stewart said, I can't define pornography, but I know it when I say it. But the Supreme Court has said it's the type of doubt that will cause a person of reasonable sensibilities to pause and hesitate in a matter of importance. I always say, but I'm old, Ivory Soap used to say that it was 99 and 44 100% pure.
Yeah.
And that's about how high they have to do it. So the fact that Mr. Comey's been indicted means nothing. He is presumed innocent. And I'm sure that he'll get great lawyers. Actually, they should steal Mimi's arguments. They were fabulous. But in my district, my home district, the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, the conviction rate for the U.S. Attorney's Office for cases that actually go to trial is 98%.
Right.
So anytime it's like legal cancer. Anytime a grand jury indicts, you're foolish if you're not concerned.
No, I get it. But Mimi, here, we know what this timeline's about. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.